Tonight, swift and heated reaction on Twitter after ABC announced its canceling of Roseanne, the reboot over the star's racist tweets. Here's the tweet that got Roseanne Barr into so much trouble. Some very ugly words about Valerie Jarrett, the former Obama administration advisor. And Barr also has been known to say some very inflammatory kinds of things about others as well. It is how she makes her living and has over the last 25 years. Today, Barr tried to apologize, but the backlash only grew, with consulting producer Wanda Sykes tweeting she wouldn't return to the show. Several other show members also voiced their disgust. A couple of hours later, ABC announced it was getting rid of the show. While the reboot has pulled in a very big audience, it has faced controversy from the very beginning over its jabs at other minority-led shows. Tonight, MSNBC has exclusive reaction from the former Obama advisor who was ripped by Barr.
We have to turn it into a teaching moment. I'm fine. I'm worried about all the people out there who don't have a circle of friends and followers who come right to their defense. The person who's walking down the street minding their own business and they see somebody cling to their purse or want to cross the street. Or every black parent I know who has a boy who has to sit down and have a conversation, the talk, as we call it. And those, as you say, those ordinary examples of racism that happen every single day.
Congressman John Lewis also thanking ABC, saying you did the right thing. There is not any room in our society for racism or bigotry. Coming up at 5:30, we will have reaction from Jarrett. All that straight ahead.